What a strange pay-per-view this was. I'm John Renton with the Retro Review, WCW Great American Bash 1998, taking place in the Baltimore Arena, 12,800 some odd people, a pretty hot crowd at times, and then other times they almost seem confused or they seem more interested in seeing fans getting kicked out of the arena. Seriously, there were multiple times that the crowd was saying, na 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 na, na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye. Way to pay attention to the matches, you fucking idiots. Also, there were times where there was some high-level work on this show, like some really good stuff over the TV Championship and a good match between Chavo and Eddie, and then they would have the main event stuff that really wasn't all that good. One particular match, a tag match, I don't know how the key components here didn't manage to produce at least something somewhat watchable, but it was really goddamn messy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So we have a spoopy NWO WCW intro, and then with patriotism because it's the Great American Bash, and they talk about the various the various matches on the card and stuff like that. And then we have Shivani, Heenan, and Tenay on commentary. They run down the card, and then we cut to Mean Gene talking about Sting and the Giant, who are fighting for control of the WCW Tag Team Championship. Now, I want you to think about that. Sting joined the NWO Wolfpack, that NWO brand that had a really cool theme and didn't need to fucking exist. Honestly, why did they have so many NWO factions? They had the LWO that came to an end when Eddie Guerrero suffered his unfortunate car accident at the end of 98. I think it was the end of 98 or it was very early 99. But yeah, that pretty much put an end to an NWO faction that wasn't going to work anyway, despite the talent involved. Who are you to doubt El Dandy? I'll never doubt El Dandy, according to the words of the great Bret Hart. So yeah, they had the Wolfpack, and then they had the Black and White because the Giant decided, even though he was tag team champions with Sting, to defect back to the NWO Black and White. The group, they had kicked him out numerous times, but he kept going back there. I don't really understand why, and I don't understand why they thought this was a good idea to have this happen over the WCW Tag Team Championship. It was just really, really bizarre, but this took up the first few minutes of the show, just talking, just general talking. I mean, it's one thing for somebody to review it and obviously just talk because, I'm not going to show video and get copyrighted, but this is a pay-per-view that people paid for. We get Goldberg chants because this is when Goldberg was really on the ascent and was about to beat Hulk Hogan on Nitro. Not on pay-per-view, can't get a whole lot of money out of it, just get a lot of fans and a lot of big ratings, but don't get any pay-per-view buy rates out of it. Good job, Hulk Hogan, even though it was a really cool moment to see. And I already retro-reviewed that, so I'm not going to go back and do that. But anyway, we get recaps of Benoit and Booker on Thunder. It was supposed to be the final of the best-of-7 series they had over who would get a shot at the TV Championship. And I recall those matches being fucking tremendous. Benoit was, yes, obviously all the shit with Benoit and all that. It's hard to watch his matches, even in a vacuum. But looking back on it, Booker and Benoit cut a really good pace here, and the clash of styles really worked. And then Bret Hart came in because Bret Hart obviously had been brought in with all the hype in the world heading into Starrcade 97. They misused him right away. Even if he couldn't wrestle for a bit due to contractual stuff and his broken knuckle from punching Vince, they still managed to somehow fuck that up. They should have brought him in on the next Nitro and just said, Bret, cut a promo and let's put our foot, right on WWE's back. Let's just twist. Let's just beat them right here. They could have gotten big ratings, but no, they didn't fucking do that. And Bret, by this point, had turned heel, and he hit Booker with a chair, and then Benoit was like, hey, wait a second. He hit him with a chair, so the match got thrown out. Well, actually, it got ruled in Booker's favor. And then Booker said, I'm not going to win like that. Please, have the match happen at the pay-per-view, and then JJ, do something about this. JJ Dillon, by the way. Not Jeff Jarrett, not Double J. He was still in WWE, not being utilized to what he was promised, basically to face Steve Austin, because Austin was like, I don't really want to face Jeff Jarrett. And yeah, all that stuff's been told, many times over. But JJ Dillon, who was an on-air authority figure, said, okay, we'll make that match. And yeah, it took almost 10 minutes to get to the first match. And it was Benoit versus Booker, best of 7 series, actually best of 8 series, but that other match got thrown out. Winner faces Fit Finlay for the TV Championship later on. Good wrestling to start. Booker's knee was the focus. I believe he'd either recently had surgery on it or he'd had some kind of injury angle with it. Some of that's a little bit muddy to me. But Benoit also worked on the shoulder. I mean, of course, he's going to work on the body parts, weaken the body parts before he goes for the head. Look, I had to work one of those lines in. Benoit ground him down. Anytime he tries to build momentum, Benoit cuts him off and hangs him out to dry. Oh, you want to talk about lines that haven't aged well. Booker tries to fire up, a couple German suplexes, nice dragon suplex for 2, diving headbutt, and then we get a missile dropkick, 1, 2, 3. Remember when moves like the missile dropkick would win matches? Boy, I sure do, because I just watched it. I just watched it happen, but it's a bygone era, unfortunately. You now need to just hit the most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling, surprise roll up for the victory. So anyway, Booker will face Fit Finlay later. Chavo's then talking to Lee Marshall and some other guy, I didn't quite catch it, about Eddie Guerrero and the match they're going to have, and this is for WCW.com or the hotline. I'm not exactly sure which one. And then Kanyon versus Saturn. Kanyon was really fucking innovative, wasn't he? And I greatly miss Kanyon. I did not appreciate Kanyon as much as I should have in his prime. I didn't, and I feel bad about that. It's not like I thought he was shit. I just was like, man, I really wish I had appreciated him better. Rewatching the last year of WCW gave me more of an appreciation of what Kanyon did. Especially that insane bump he took at, I believe, Slamboree 2000. Yeah, that was crazy. Also, a quick plug here real quick. I may actually be reviewing all of the pay-per-views of the Invasion angle and the Raws and SmackDowns. King of the Ring 2001 to the Raw right after Survivor Series 2001. Why? Why not? The WCW reviews did so goddamn well and people enjoyed that. Why not lose my mind a little bit more? So anyway, the flock, a flock, not a flock of seagulls, because they ran so far away, they got to get away, but they ran to the ring instead. They attacked everybody. Well, actually, they were trying to attack Kanyon because Kanyon was not part of the flock, or was he? No, Saturn dove on everybody. The flock got kicked out, and Saturn may have hurt his neck doing a suplex spot off the ropes, because he was like holding his head. I mean, he might have rattled himself. So the match was more of a brawl, and here's the thing, the crowd was into it, and then I don't know what happened. I don't know if the crowd just suddenly got too drunk and didn't realize what they were watching or what, but they got really silent. The crowd went quiet. They were booing some when they weren't quiet. There was a bad double rope spot. There were multiple, mortises that came into the ring, and I wonder who one of them is. Gee, that tattoo looks familiar. And Flatliner 1, 2, 3, because they were brawling outside, and Saturn was like, hey, I need to be distracted by this despite the fact I'm a professional. One of the Morrises was Raven, and he beat up Saturn. Or he berates Saturn, and he was going to beat him up. And then the Flock's here, and then Saturn lays them all out, because this was going to lead to Fall Brawl 98, when Saturn would beat Raven, and the Flock would disband. And then Saturn would go back to his mortal enemy, Raven, and team up with him, and Saturn would feud with Chris Jericho, and have to wear a dress, and then would not have to wear it after 30 days, and would continue to wear a dress. And I don't really care how the fuck you dress, but they didn't know what the fuck they were doing with Saturn, and it was just a weird goddamn thing. Also, the outfits couldn't have exactly been easy to wrestle in, but maybe I'm wrong. So, WCW, ladies and gentlemen, video package on how Dean and Jericho were still at war, because Jericho was a conspiracy victim and all that and everything, and Dean had beat him for the Cruiserweight Championship at Slamboree after unmasking that Cyclope. Hell of a goddamn, one of the biggest pops that Dean Malenko ever got in his goddamn career. And that's no disrespect to Dean Malenko, but that was a hell of a moment. Dean decided he wanted to give up the Cruiserweight Championship, and then Jericho was like wanting the championship back, and his actual dad, who I'm sure didn't mind that, his son would turn out to be, a bloated mess and AEW not being able to do anything. He said, hey, you don't want to earn it that way. Quit whining and beat him the right way. So it was a lot to, take in. Jericho versus Malenko, vacant the WCW Cruiserweight Championship match. And this was pretty good. A big fight feel. Malenko was much more focused, much more, just insanely driven to beat up Jericho. Jericho did showboat. He got beat up, and then he got beat up for that. Later, Lion Salt misses, and then Hurricane off the top. Dean roars back, gets locked in the Boston Crab, but gets to the ropes. Then gets the Cloverleaf on Jericho. He gets to the ropes, and then Jericho had said something about, I don't remember the exact line, and I hate it, but it was such a good line. He said something about Malenko. Oh no, it was something about isn't it funny that you and your brother look nothing alike, implying that Dean's mother slept around, and that maybe, that maybe they were from different fathers, which that was a really good line. It was really scary. I will say this, back then Jericho could definitely get a lot of anger, and for the right reasons, unlike, not wanting to acknowledge that his mother-in-law and wife were part of the insurrection attempt. But whatever, that's okay. Jericho's getting his money, and Fozzy will soon flame out, and I will laugh. Back to this match. This one thing that set Dean Malenko off. He says, "You're nothing, just like your dead father." And I think Dean's father did die. I don't remember if he had died that year or died recently, like in the recent past. But man, Dean went nuts. He beat him up outside. He hit him with a chair. That caused a DQ. And then he brawled into the back and into the parking lot. And Jericho takes off and hides in a building across the street. That's not even a joke. He actually really did do that. And Jericho's declared the winner. Maybe. We'll find out. Eddie then talks about Chavo to the website people, including Lee Marshall and some other guy. Hoovy, where he's on the set of The Ruins. Where is Jenna Malone being invaded by vines when you need her? I like Jenna Malone in that movie. Did you ever see The Ruins? Let me know if you've seen The Ruins in the comments, please. So, Hoovy versus Reese with Lodi. Oh dear, oh dear. It was a David versus Goliath match, and it was bad. This barely belonged on Thunder. Referee got distracted, and Van Hammer, who was not heavy metal Van Hammer anymore, but he's kicked out of the flock because the flock really didn't mean anything, but the flock didn't mean anything to begin with anyway. It wasn't like Raven's Nest and ECW where at least Paul knew how to utilize Raven. I mean, I may knock ECW, but at least he knew how to utilize Raven better. Van Hammer hits Reese with a chair while Hoovy is on him facing towards Van Hammer, and then hits a bad Hurricanrana and then gets the pin 1, 2, 3. This match is bad. And Hoovy was really talented. Of course, his ego got in the way of a lot of his career, and drugs. But he got a big win here. I mean, over the man that was formerly the Yeti. No, really, Reese was the Yeti, and then Supergiant Ninja the Yeti. Chavo versus Eddie. This wasn't a hair versus hair match. I think they would have that at Bash at the Beach 98. And this was good. Chavo, really good at this point. Really, rising up in his career. Eddie, world class. The fact that Eddie, I don't think any wrestler's death hit me harder than Eddie Guerrero's, in all honesty. But this, good stuff. Chavo acted nuts. This is when he was acting all crazy. Not when he had the wooden horse. But, the little horse, Pepe, I believe is what it was. Chops were laid in. We get, some good punches, some good strikes. Eddie got hit with, hit on the post. His shoulder was damn it. He was actually bleeding from his shoulder, so I think he really hurt it. But then there was, a bunch of others. They did a chase thing around the ring. We just need the Benny Hill sketch, music playing. And then there were "We Want Flair" chants. Chavo hit a dive at one point and basically overshooting Eddie. But Eddie was a professional man to catch him good enough. Not that Chavo was careless, but Eddie just knew. He was like, oh shit, let me catch him. And then the "We Want Flair" chants, which would lead to Ric Flair coming back in Charlotte, I believe, September 14th, 1998. So anyway, Tornado DDT, 1, 2, 3. Chavo beats his uncle. Cool. Video package on Piper and Savage. They're at odds, to say the least, but they're going to team up against Brett and Hogan and then face off, in a singles match right after. By the way, Savage was dealing with a torn ACL at this time that he had suffered at either Uncensored or Spring Stampede 98. I want to say it was Spring Stampede 98. But anyway, Booker T versus Finlay, TV title. Can Booker overcome a fresh Finlay? Obviously, he did. Finlay beat him down and targeted the knee and everything, and then eventually, there was some other action. Booker did do a cool, sudden inside out on the clothesline, and then bad tombstone reversals. They wanted to try and catch each other and didn't quite work, and then he had a reverse tombstone. Well, it's supposed to be a pile driver, but he just kind of sat out, and Booker pinned Finlay 1, 2, 3 and won the TV championship. Big pop, big moment. Conan with Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig versus Bill Goldberg for the U.S. Championship. And it's just Goldberg, but Bill Goldberg was also his name. And it's supposed to be Hennig. He was injured. Conan got demolished in a couple minutes, and Goldberg won. That was pretty much it. So anyway, Hennig and Rude then lay out Conan because Hennig is not part of the Wolfpack. He's part of NWO Black and White. This is well beyond the point where the NWO was testing everybody's patience. Yes, it was a hot t-shirt seller, But it was a t-shirt brand that they kept extending way too long and way too long. I wonder if any Too Sweet group maybe can, have that apply to them now. Too. Bullet Club and the Elite, by the way, in case you didn't get it. So, then Nash and Luger, I believe, run down and try to chase off Hennig and Rude. And then we get a Bash at the Beach ad where there's a shark and people on the beach, because 90s. Bret and Hogan with the Disciple, who, it's funny, for a while back when I was a teenager, I didn't realize, that the Disciple was Brutus Beefcake. I didn't realize that because he looked so different. And also I was a bit naive about that stuff. I mean, I knew quickly, after, like, seeing, I go, wait a second, that's Beefcake. That's the Booty Man. That's the Zodiac. That's a man with no name. That's why? I mean, whatever. He looked different, I'll say that. Anyway, they took on Savage and Piper. Savage and Piper will face off next. I don't know how with these components, even with Hogan phoning it in, even with Savage with a torn ACL, because, you can't wrestle with that stuff. Even with Piper and Bret at this point in their career, 6+ years, just over 6 years after WrestleMania 8. I don't know how a match could be this bad, but this was bad. This was really bad. It was dull. It was just not good. Savage, at one point, Savage at one point put a chair in the ring, and when Bret tried to do the head drop into Piper's gut, but he hit the chair. That was a pretty cool spot. Savage's knee gave out when he was trying to do a top rope elbow. He got the sharpshooter locked on, and he tapped out. And then Piper was trying to resist facing Savage. He's like, no, you're hurt. Savage punched him. They had their match, and a figure 4 tapped him out. That's it. Savage would, I believe, be gone after this until the last Nitro of 1998. He would show up, low blow the Giant, and Flair would beat Eric Bischoff and control WCW forever. And then it got messy. Somehow. So anyway, the Giant comes to the ring smoking. Smoke. Not now, Terry. And because Terry was on earlier. Haha. So Sting versus the Giant for control of the WCW Tag Team Championship. This was terrible. Terrible. It wasn't even as good as their match that they had, I believe, at, was it Slamboree 96? I think it was. And we get 2 Stinger splashes. We get Slam. We get Scorpion Deathlock. He's kicked off. 2 Scorpion Death Drops. No, that's not enough. Super Scorpion Death Drop off the ropes for 3. There you go. Sting wins the WCW Tag Team Championships. I believe picked Kevin Nash as his tag team partner. And then they would lose to the Giant and Scott Hall on the July 20th, 1998 edition of Nitro. Somewhere in later July. If I have the date wrong, I apologize. And then the WCW tag title picture would get messy. So this result ended up, rendering the whole thing. It was rendered pretty much pointless a little bit later. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.